This episode is brought to you by Audi. The road is calling. Embrace the thrill of the drive with the all-new, fully electric Audi Q6 e-tron. Featuring effortless power, serious acceleration, and advanced Audi tech. It's not just a new EV. It's a new way to experience driving. The all-new, fully electric Audi Q6 e-tron is here. The next chapter of Audi starts now.
I can say to my new Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, hey, find a keto-friendly restaurant nearby and text it to Beth and Steve. And it does, without me lifting a finger. So I can get in more squats anywhere I can. 1, 2, 3.
Will that be cash or credit?
Credit. 4.
Galaxy S25 Ultra, the AI companion that does the heavy lifting so you can do you. Get yours at Samsung.com. Compatible with select apps. Requires Google Gemini account. Results may vary based on input. Check responses for accuracy.
Hey, Fidelity. What's it cost to invest with the Fidelity app?
Start with as little as $1 with no account fees or trade commissions on U.S. stocks and ETFs.
That's music to my ears.
I can only talk.
Investing involves risk, including risk of loss. Zero account fees apply to retail brokerage accounts only. Sell order assessment fee not included. A limited number of ETFs are subject to a transaction-based service fee of $100. See full list at fidelity.com/commissions. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC, member NYSE, SIPC.
You're listening to the Animation Addicts Podcast, episode 290, the Super Mario Brothers movie. Sweet! Peach! Welcome to the Animation Addicts Podcast with the Rotoscopers, the #1 place to get your animation fix with animation addicts just like you. Each episode, we dive into the wonderful world of animation featuring Disney, DreamWorks, Pixar, and everything in between. From hilarious discussions and movie reviews to interviews with industry insiders, this show's mission is to brighten your day through our love of animation. So hop on your nerdy couch, grab some snacks, and get ready to hang out with your animation besties because it's time to dive into today's episode. Hey there, Animation Addicts. I'm your host, Morgan Stradling.
And I'm Chelsea Robson.
And we are back at you. We are here yet again. You never know when we're going to appear. It's like we're just popping up the green tube, the green pipe. And here we are. We've appeared in this magical world of podcasting. And we are going to be doing the Super Mario Brothers movie. So that's the name of the movie, the Super Mario Brothers movie, not Mario Brothers movie, not Mario movie. Although I think we're just going to call it the Mario movie. But yes, we are finally doing it. This was probably one of the smash hits of last year, 2023. And we're excited to talk to you about it today. So before we do, Chelsea, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing fairly well. Life is good.
It's good. I like it. That's what I like to hear. Fairly good, That allows room for improvement, but
well, I'm still coughing, and it's the perma thing. So
you know what?
Here we go.
You always kind of have the perma cough. That's par for the course for you. But I've noticed I and my family now have it, and a lot of people have it. So now it's making its rounds to the general population. So you were the catalyst.
I started the pandemic. Oh no,
yeah, Chelsea. No, don't. No, this happened. The pandemic happened, and you are recovering pandemic person, but forever recovering, right?
Forever recovering, yeah.
Yes.
Yay.
Well, yeah. Okay. With that,
we're going to be talking about Super Mario Brothers, which is all you want to do when you're home sick, and you're homesick. What do you want to do? Play Nintendo.
That's true. Before we jump into this, let's jump into this main event, and then we'll also talk about our experience with Mario. So take it away.
Lowe's knows what makes SpringFest savings even better are member-only doorbuster deals. Right now, rewards members can save $40 on an Allen & Roth Chesler Gold faucet. Was $99, now $59. Plus, save $110 on a Cobalt 40-volt battery trimmer and blower combo kit. Was $279, now $169. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 3/24 while supplies last. Program subject to terms and conditions. Details at lowes.com/terms. Subject to change.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Uh-oh. The last cookie.
You can get a new box of cookies in as fast as an hour with Walmart Express Delivery.
Are you my guilty self-conscience?
No, I'm the voice offering you promo code EXPRESS for free delivery on your first order.
Hey, who ate my cookies?
You mean, these cookies?
Order now. Welcome to your Walmart. Promotion valid for first express delivery order. $50 minimum subject to availability. Restrictions apply.
Not sure if you know who I am, but I'm about to rule the world. Wow, yay. But there's one problem. There's a human, has a mustache, just like you.
Do you think I know every human being with a mustache wearing an identical outfit with a hat with the letter of his first name on it? Because I don't.
So we're going to do like a little mini nerdy couch discussion before we get into the main event, and just kind of talking about our expertise level, skill, acquaintance with the Mario franchise, talking mostly about the video games. So that way we can understand where we're coming at, because later in this review, we're going to be talking about people who didn't necessarily like this movie. No, not necessarily, did not like this movie.
People hated it.
Simply because, oh, well, I'm not a fan of this. And, you know, it just didn't resonate with me. We have lots to say on this, but Chelsea, you go first. What is your Mario knowledge?
My brothers were very much into the Nintendo space. They always had Super Nintendo. Well, we had normal Nintendo, but I was just too young to really appreciate or even care about Nintendo at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But then when we got Super Nintendo and Super Mario World was our jam. Like we had that was playing all the time. And then we also had several others, Donkey Kong Country as well. And many others that were in the Super Nintendo genre or era. And then we ended up, it was like right on the outside when my brothers were kind of like growing out of like sitting at home and playing video games. And that was when we had Nintendo 64, and we only had like 3 games.
Nintendo 64.
It was,
you know that meme. It's a great one.
We had GoldenEye, of course. That was, the number one. I'd still call that probably the best first person shooter game out there. Probably the only one I've ever played. Therefore it's the best. But GoldenEye, we had Super Nintendo or Nintendo 64 or Mario 64. And then we had a couple other, but we only had like 4 games into Nintendo 64. So it was kind of like I was going into the junior high era when that was bigger, and I didn't want to spend money on the games. So that's my background. I was never the best player, but I always enjoyed watching my brothers play and just hanging out with them while they were playing. And, so it was fun times.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. So we're the similar age. And so I think the systems that we grew up with are similar. So the first one that we had was the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, the SNES, if you will. And Mario was our first game that we got. Now, I had cousins that had the original Nintendo, and I remember going over to their house and playing the original Mario game. But then later we did get a version of, I think it was called Super Mario All-Stars, and it had the the original Mario game. So Mario 1, 2, and 3, and it had those along with the Lost Levels.
Yeah, we had them.
That. Yeah,
Game
so you
Genie, also a thing.
Yeah, so you could play that on your Super Nintendo. So through that, I was able to be very familiar with the Mario franchise at an early age. Loved Super Mario World so much. I played that game over and over and over again. I could tell you all the different secret passages, how to get to the Star Land, how to, get to Bowser super quick, all the hidden levels in there. I love that game. so much. The 4 different Yoshis that you could get, and the feather that you had. You could get your cape and you could fly. I love this game so much. And then we did get the Super Nintendo, or we did get the N64 with Super Mario 64, which was fun. But I played that game. I didn't have as much of a connection to it as I did, thinking back Super Mario World. I think I just had so much love for that game. Yeah. And then we continued to have every single Nintendo platform since, except we did not have the Wii U. So I obviously grew up playing, the GameCube. I played all the different Super Mario, the Melee games, which are awesome. And that's basically a fighting style game with all the Mario characters together. And we'll talk about that with Princess Peach and her arc as a girl boss, if you will, or maybe not. And so, with the GameCube, there was Luigi's Mansion, which is a Luigi spin-off game, which is really fun, where he goes into this haunted mansion and there's all these ghosts. And so will talk about it for this movie. There's so many Easter eggs and hints that if you play these games, you're like, this is very reminiscent of this. And, another really random spin-off game was called Mario is Missing. We went to a video game store, or like a rental store. It wasn't Blockbuster, but it was like one of the local spin-off knockoff ones. And we rented this game called Mario is Missing, where Mario is missing. And so you're playing as Luigi, and you have to go around to all these different real life cities like Paris and all these things. Wow. And you have to try to find him. And we love this game so much that we wanted to buy it. And my dad, we went to all these video game stores and couldn't find it. Turns out it was a super rare game. He tried to buy it from the store, and of course they wouldn't sell it to us. But I remember renting that a few times because we just thought it was so cool. But for the most part, Mario is the main star, and Luigi gets introduced as the second player when you want to do a 2-player version of it. And so although I will say I have not played some of the more recent ones like Super Mario Galaxy, Super Mario Odyssey, although I'm familiar with them and the characters that are introduced, like Rosalina and the Lumos, but and Super Mario Maker, where you can make your own Super Mario. As far as anything that came out probably 2010 beyond, I have not played those games, but I'm aware of them. So definitely a Mario kid, Nintendo kid for sure. And when this movie came out, I think it was just perfect. And what I love, so we're going to jump into our review of this movie. And before we do, I'm going to do the breakdown of this movie. So it is first off, the studio, which was interesting, was Illumination Entertainment and Universal Pictures. They're together, and Universal obviously is the one distributing it. And I think initially when this was announced, people were kind of shocked, what? They picked Illumination to do this, not DreamWorks but looking back, it's a perfect choice. Okay,
I think so.
Put a pin in that. We'll come back to that. Directed by Aaron Horvath and Michael Jelenic. Written by Matthew Fogel. Obviously, it's based on Mario by Nintendo. It's produced by Chris Meledandri, who is the founder, runs the studio Illumination, and Shigeru Miyamoto, who has been with the Mario franchise at Nintendo from the very beginning. He's leadership, executive team at Nintendo at this point, but really has helmed Mario since the very beginning. And it's very important that he was involved. Obviously, this is a Nintendo property, so they're going to have every last say in it. And they're not just going to say okay, well, show us the reels and we'll give it yes or no. By being a producer, he really was able to put this Nintendo stamp on it, why this movie feels so different and feels so normal compared to a lot of other things coming out right now.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I have so much to say, but let's finish this up. It was released April 5th, 2023. It's nearly a year ago not today, but nearly a year ago. It had a budget of $100 million, which we've been talking a lot about budgets. The American studios, particularly Disney Pixar, have these crazy budgets nearing $200 million, whereas this European studio is able to keep theirs in the $75 to $100 million range. And it was a huge box office success with $1.36 billion with a B.
With a B.
With a big fat B. So, okay, let's talk first about Illumination Entertainment being selected to do this. So like I said, perfect choice.
I actually really respect Illumination based on they've only, with the few characters and the few movies that they have been able to produce, a majority of them have gone into the $1 billion market, which is crazy. And yes, you have Despicable Me, and then the Minions, and you have all of these. You have several movies that are kind of spin-offs of those two, or spin-offs of Despicable Me for sure. And then a lot of them, they just know how to do kind of wacky, zany things. And I know that Illumination has just, I don't know, they came out of nowhere a little in recent, the last decade or so, to be able to just be a huge powerhouse. And I think if you are looking at Nintendo, they are definitely the ones that are probably going to be able to work better with, because they are able to they have more, well, even though Illumination has come on and have been able to have a good track record, they also they don't have the same cachet, I guess you could say. Is that the right word? Sure. As a Disney or a DreamWorks. And so they are able to negotiate better with somebody like Nintendo. And I think, I just think they did a really good job in pairing up with them.
So one of the main keys that the way they did get founded, or the way they did get put together, was Universal, which is becoming almost beating Disney at this point in time as far as theme parks goes. Yeah. They were creating these Mario-based lands and attractions. And through that, Miyamoto met Chris Meledandri, who, like I said, he's the founder of Illumination. Now, I misspoke earlier. I said Illumination is a European studio. It's not. It's an American animation studio. It's a division of Universal Pictures, which makes sense why Universal is always their distributor. So Universal said, hey, we want an animation division, but they didn't call it like Universal Animation. They just gave it, this new name, which I think was pretty smart. And so obviously there's tons of great synergy there. And Miyamoto was really impressed, and they started kind of looking into this. And by 2017, it was announced that they were going to be working together, and they had selected Illumination as that. Now, the reason I say, they're a European studio, a lot of their animation is done overseas in Europe. That's kind of, I think, where they're able to get a lot of their cost savings versus the American studios that are in California, which isn't very business friendly. They have a lot of taxes and restrictions, and there's a lot of bloat in the American studios right now as far as Disney Pixar. So all of that being said, I think it's a really good choice. They went there. Initially you might have been a little squirmish, like, Illumination, I don't know. They do the Minions and all the fart jokes, and they, Gru and Despicable Me, but they really have put a lot of great stuff. A lot of these franchises, for example, The Grinch, and some of the Dr. Seuss movies, they have been able to do pretty well. I think they've done a really good as trying to put those to screen and to be true to the source material. So with that, this came out
in 4 films. Illumination. So I've been looking it up. In 4 films, Gru and the Minions gained the title of the most profitable movie franchise ever, which is crazy.
Yeah, wow.
And like, what? And so they've had Hop, the Lorax, Despicable Me 2, Minions, Pets, Sing, and then others that I put together this years ago. I put together this like a compilation of the different studios, which has completely changed since then. But yeah, I'm just looking at my old notes from that talk that I was putting together. Anyway,
oh yes,
I was really like impressed with the Minions, and Chris Meledandri, he was the one that he founded it, and then he ended up sending it to Universal Studios and like Cox and everything. And so it was just kind of like a huge buy for them. And, it's just kind of interesting, the levels of where who owns what and what goes where is interesting. Yeah. We'll have to do an episode on that once things stop moving around, but Disney will probably keep buying everything. So, that's its own
for
talk.
Another day. We can discuss that. So, all right. So let's see. Before we get started, the reason it took so long for us to get this movie is because we had the absolutely terrible film that came 30 years prior. Yes, 30.
Oh my gosh.
Super Mario Brothers live action film, which, holy moly, what a terrible movie. And they tried to make it up for like a more older audience, and it's live action, and it's gritty and it's weird. And there is an excellent YouTube video talking about like basically what went wrong with this movie and how everyone involved were trying to sabotage it along the way. And it's just shocking how it was able to they didn't know what they were doing. Things were changing last minute. There was no alignment between the director, It was absolutely terrible. I'm going to include that in the show notes because it's a really fascinating watch. And that really scared Nintendo off from making any more movies. They're like, we put our baby in your hands, and this was the laughing stock that it is. What a disaster. So,
right.
Yeah, no.
Well, and they had nothing to do. They basically just sold out the rights. And so it's like, have fun. I'm sorry about that. Yeah. So this time when they were coming in with Illumination, it was just amazing how much of the creative control they were able to keep. And obviously that's one other reason why I feel like they couldn't have gone with, say, Disney. Maybe they could have gone with DreamWorks, but I still think that with Illumination, they were just able to have an easier negotiation.
Yeah, with Disney, if you go the Disney route, then eventually you're going down the route of introducing these characters into the parks, kind of like what ultimately they've done with Marvel. And I don't know, again, talking with Disney and all the acquisitions, just seeing these Marvel characters walk around the parks, I'm like, this isn't Disney to me. Like even Star Wars to an extent, I'm like, why are you here? It just...
She doesn't even go here.
Yeah, so anyways, yes, it's called The Making of the Super Mario Brothers Movie. It's a 30-minute documentary on YouTube by a really great gaming channel. It'll blow your mind how sad this is. So, okay, so they made some really interesting choices here because we know that, hey, Mario, he's this plumber, he's an Italian plumber, and he kind of goes into this Mushroom Kingdom world. And so with this movie, the big hullabaloo, as soon as it was announced and we had initial voice cast, was Chris Pratt. Oh my goodness, Chris Pratt as Mario. I remember when that first trailer came out and people were talking about his voice and whether it was good or not. And they made it, he's an Italian American living in Brooklyn. And you know what? At first I was like, well, why didn't they bring in the original voice of Mario? This is so offensive. They should have brought in the original voice because that's the Mario that we love. And he's the guy who's been voicing Mario has done it for years and years and years, right? So
wasn't there some drama that he was like really upset about not being picked? Obviously,
no. I don't know about him, but I definitely know the voice of Luigi from the 1993 was so entitled that he went on this like death campaign complaining and trying to trash the movie that they didn't include him. And I'm like, you're not even Luigi. Like you were the Luigi in the crappy movie that everyone's forgetting about.
You don't even go here.
Yeah.
Funny.
So, but you know what? I actually think having watched this movie multiple times because of my kids, it's fine. Would I like him to have a little bit more of a Mario accent? Sure, that'd be fun. If in my ideal world, I would like the voice of Mario, whose name is Charles Martinet. I would want him to play Mario and Luigi. He voices both of them in the games. I would want that. Now, do I understand how American movies and everything work? Yes, I do. So I think Chris Pratt was fine. I like that he kind of did this little, New Yorkie accent. And by having them live in Brooklyn, and which they're in New York City, there's all of these different immigrants that have come that have certain, like the Italian American living in Brooklyn is like such a stereotype, and it's a trope, right? And I think it works perfectly to kind of soften the edges of Mario, to allow Chris Pratt to just kind of be more of a Chris Pratty sort of guy.
Well, yeah. And he, being a second generation, you're not going to have the same accent as the parents would.
Yeah, exactly. Now, this was interesting. So I really liked that we get to see his family. I thought it was funny because, not funny, but we get this multi-generational home, which isn't normal. We don't see that a lot anymore. Just in American culture, it's not really the way where families live together, where you have the grandchildren, the children, and the grandparents all living in one home. And so people were,
if you're not moved out by 18, there's something wrong.
Exactly. But this was always the way for, history. These people would just live with their families and would have these familial bonds, and people were happier. And the older people, the grandparents, have a sense of purpose because they're helping the grandchildren. And it's really just a beautiful relationship that, that exists. Yeah. And people were saying, oh, like he's an adult. Why is he living with his parents? I thought it was awesome. I thought it was so fun. There is like a little bit of a disconnect because it's like, how old are you supposed to be, Mario? With this huge bushy mustache, like you kind of give the vibes that you're 30s, 40s. I think he's supposed to be like 20s. So that was kind of a little bit off, but then you kind of just get it over. Like you just move on. Like he's Mario. Fine. He has parents.
Yeah. That never really crossed my mind.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It was more of just like, okay, it's a multi-generational family. Like I also have never really tried to put an age on Mario. So it's like, all right, he's somewhere in there.
Yeah.
there's a lot of this movie that the first time I watched it, I felt like I was being a lot more on the critical side because I was, I had to do a critique on this thing. Now a year later and watching it again, it's like, there's no critiquing. This is just, it is what it is. And
it's fun.
It is fun. It's something that I enjoyed. And I didn't take anything as seriously and because you already know what to expect, having gone through it. And now every time you bring in one of these Easter eggs, and now every time you bring in all these things, it's just kind of more of like, I just accept it all and I enjoyed it.
So how did you feel about Chris Pratt? So at the end of the day, Chris Pratt is Mario. Thumbs up, thumbs down.
I thought it was fine. I think I remember in the beginning being like, what? But I think now I think if he tried to do an Italian accent, or you would have had somebody else even doing an Italian accent, I feel like it might have been a little less, I don't know. I think it worked being that he was a second generation. And so it's like all these things made sense. So nothing really like struck me as being outside of norm or making me so I have to suspend more disbelief on these things.
Yeah, and they call it out, where they try to do the heavy accent in this commercial that they have, and then they're like, whatever.
Right.
It's funny. I really love that first moment because if you grew up, watching maybe the animated TV show for Mario or whatnot, some of these songs that they have are really funny, and there's so many throwbacks, there's so many Easter eggs, and this song that they have for their commercial is so funny because it's so stereotypical 90s. This Mario rap song, we're the Mario brothers and plumbing's our game.
Yeah.
And it works so well for this commercial. Like they're going off on their own. They've quit the job that they had being a plumber for someone else who's kind of a pseudo antagonist for them. Uh-huh. And then this is how they're doing it. They have a commercial and now they're in the big leagues. And I loved it. I thought it was a great commercial. I even love the part where they have this actor who they're hiring. They're like, what does she say? She says something really funny where she's like reading this line and it's really cheesy. And she's like, the only thing you didn't drain was my wallet. It's just funny. And so you lead off with this, and there's a lot of humor, and it's really fun to get into. It's just a fun movie. And, it takes a few minutes before we jump into the Mushroom Kingdom, but they really set, Mario really wants to be loved by his dad, and he wants to, get praise from him and think that he's a good son.
Luigi needs to be more brave in different ways.
Yes.
They do a good job of like
establishing these characters, their conflicts, their weaknesses, if you will. So I liked it. And then, they go on this big, they have a big job to this rich place. And of course, the dog is just a total loser dog who creates all this drama for them. And then
that's one thing that I feel like they should have made it a cat or something. Because I feel like having a cat be vindictive is like so much more of a believable thing.
Yes, totally. And then they go to this mysterious, waterworks down in the, the nether regions of New York and discover this random green pipe. And then they walk through it. Luigi goes first and he gets shuffled away, and then Mario follows after him, and then they get separated. And I thought this was really great. I liked separating the brothers and having Mario or having Luigi kind of be an ancillary secondary character in this, where we really just going to focus on Mario and his journey.
Yeah.
And so the main crux of it is like, we're in this place. I don't know where I am, but I need to find my brother.
But it also gives Luigi a chance to kind of like just grow up a little bit and overcome his weaknesses of being like the guy who's afraid of everything. And one thing that I like, well, I don't know, there was a part of me that felt bad for Luigi just because it was like there's only one point in time where he like overcomes what he had, like his fears, and at the very end he does it. But it's like I feel like they should have done a better job of like building him up throughout, even though like they just basically put him in a cage for most of it. And I feel like they could have done more with that. Like they could have expounded on, his other strengths, where he could find his other strengths as opposed to just being the little brother that needs to be saved, because Luigi is not. And like as a character, Luigi is his own person. And there was the one thought that I felt like was when later on when they do introduce Peach, and they were afraid. And this is some of the things that I had said in my original review. And as I went through this, I'm less concerned about them today, but I still feel this way. The fact that Peach, she didn't have nearly enough flaws or something to like overcome or like discovery of her own life. And so they basically gave all the flaws to Luigi. And so Luigi, he just is like, you just feel bad for him the whole time. Like, come on, dude, like step up. You're fine.
Yeah.
No, I mean, you're running around with lava and everything chasing you. Obviously not fine, but it's like, I just felt like they could have done a little bit more of him interacting with the other caged people, the caged characters. And
yeah, I think maybe they're saving it for the second movie. I think with Mario, I think a Mario is missing sequel would work really well, because then we could, there were elements where, Luigi's the scaredy cat, we get that from Luigi's Mansion, but we didn't see the ghosts at all in this movie. I think there's so many Easter eggs and there's so many background characters. I'm sure there was a ghost somewhere in the background, but I think they're kind of saving that for a sequel where he has to go into this mansion that is haunted by all of these ghosts. I mean, that seems like a natural next step that they could do. And he's going to take the reins and have to figure out, how to save Mario this time. And we'll get more Luigi. I don't know. It would work really well because we wouldn't have to, we got a lot of Mario. Now we can focus on Luigi in the third one, whatever. We know there's going to be a third. So talking about Peach, the voice actress for her is Anya Taylor-Joy. I'm not really familiar with her. She's done, a lot of movies, but, she was Emma in 2020, which I remember when that came out. That was, they were doing the premiere access thing because it came out in February, and then, then pandemic happened. And so they started charging you could buy like $20 just to watch it at home. Yeah. So I remember Emma kind of I didn't realize she was Emma, but I'm not really familiar with a lot of the things that she's done. She's in Dune Part 2, which I do have plans to see at some point in time. But, Peach is this, or that's not how Peach never says hi, but she says, so what? She has this really high pitched, peachy voice that we've, again, come to know and love. And of all the voices that I really I wanted more of a Peach voice. She has this more of this modern kind of gravelly, girl voice that's not super high pitched, not super sweet and honeyish, which is at the end of the day, she was fine, but I really miss my so sweet. I miss my sweet Peach. Yeah. Now, initially, when they were making this movie, the initial draft of it is this was like a Peach movie, and she was total girl boss. And Miyamoto came in and said, "Absolutely not! Like, what are we doing here? This is not like." Thank goodness. And that's where the Japanese sensibility comes in, because modern movies have really gone off the rails, where you can't have these damsel in distress sort of characters anymore. You can't be rescued by, the damsel can't be rescued by the hero. Right. And we don't get that in this movie. She's not actually, like in the actual games, majority of the time she's locked. Our princess is in another castle. Right. Which is fun. They did have that line, but it would have been funny. Like, I think it would have been perfect if that would have been the thing, if Peach wasn't the star and we really don't see a lot of her. But maybe in a future movie, Peach gets captured and she really is in another castle. I'd be fine with that. But they introduce, we're in this mushroom kingdom. There's all these toads everywhere and there's no humans. And then we kind of have an interesting storyline with Peach. And, that it's just so funny. It's like, they found me and then they raised me and then they made me their princess. Like, what? Okay. Like, hey, random, like, you're a human, therefore you're going to rule over us. It's just weird. It was just kind of funny. It was like, okay, whatever. Like, and that's the thing that I loved about this movie is there's a few of these moments where you're like, huh? But then because it's Mario, you don't take it too seriously. Like, I don't care. Like, I'm not over analyzing the movie. Like I might with some other movies, because it really is a simple plot line. It's really simple story. Peach isn't a total girl boss, but she definitely is capable, where they go through and like we talked about, they have these fun Mario elements that really make you remember, for example, when they're first going to their first job in Brooklyn, we have the side scroll view of them jumping up and down and jumping on these platforms. And there's no angles other than like straight on side view. And that was a lot of fun because that's very reminiscent of the games. Right. Yeah. And then they have another one of these with like the power blocks and all of this. And it's like, are you ready? Can you really do this? And he goes through it. He just not very good. But she shows him the way and she's just total awesome at it. That's where kind of her girl bossiness comes through, where she's just too good.
Yeah. And I feel like they should have had something where at the end, like, wow, how you did so well or something. And they should have made it like some type of a gamer comment right after, like, well, yeah, I play this every day, you know?
Yeah, totally. But what I appreciated is that she never has a "I don't need no man" comment, you know, where she is, I'm going to do this myself. Yeah. And she doesn't reject Mario's help. She welcomes Mario's help. She brings him in. And it was just so refreshing. Yeah. It was so refreshing just to see that. And then they go off on this adventure together and, you know, go to the jungle, you know, with the Donkey Kong land. And
so what are your thoughts on Donkey Kong specifically, Seth?
He was okay. He was okay. I mean, Donkey Kong typically doesn't really have a voice, as far as I recall. So, you know, whoever you're going to get for him, fine. I like that he was very antagonistic to Mario, which that makes sense from the, you know, the initial Donkey Kong game where he's throwing the barrels down and they're always kind of these antagonists. And then Donkey Kong in his own games is the hero of those games. You know, and Diddy Kong and Cranky and all them, you know, but when we put them together, they really are like oil and water. And I really liked that. As far as Seth Rogen, I was kind of meh. It didn't matter either way.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of Seth Rogen. So it's like every time I hear his voice, it's just kind of like it kind of grates me. And I was just like, I'm over you. Like, why are you here?
Yeah.
Who invited you? As I mentioned prior, I really liked Donkey Kong and specifically Donkey Kong Country. That game was so fun for me.
Such a good game. Yeah.
And like the first, you know, at least 10 levels or something, I'm sure I have memorized somewhere in the nether regions of my mind. But I feel like that, like bringing them in was just like, this feels fun. I like this. And just all of the moments where we're just kind of like bringing the game to life and being, I would say I would call myself like as a passive fan, like today specifically, but at the time I was definitely a fan, and having all of these things would have been in there when I was like heavily into it. It would have been like, oh my God, it's just the same thing. You know, I was very happy when they brought that in. I thought it was kind of funny how it was very segmented, the whole movie.
Yeah.
And you could tell that it's like, okay, guys, this is where we bring in this thing. Okay, guys, this is where we bring in this, you know, this is where we bring in Smash Brothers universe. This is where we bring in the Mario Kart universe.
Got to build your cards.
Right. And every moment just kind of had like okay, now we're doing this.
We're checking this off the list.
Yes. Yeah. It very much felt like there was somebody had this huge long list of things that they needed to put in there and then just said, okay, and how are we going to do that? I don't know. We'll just do this.
Yeah.
And so it just felt a little bumpy going from one zone to the next and one part of the story to the next. But I do appreciate that all those things were in it. And like I said, now that I've watched, like now that it's been a year and I'm watching it just for the thrill of watching it and having no other reason other than just to enjoy, it's like, I understand why they did it. It's just, and especially like you're little kids. So I feel like as a little kid, I definitely wouldn't be looking at it the same way as I look at it today. And so I feel like, okay, now we're going to build the Mario Karts. Like that would be just kind of like a fun thing. Like, no, that's just what we do.
Yeah. My kids actually haven't played any. I'm like such a strict mom. I don't let my kids play video games, and they really don't watch a lot of media. You know, we have like movie night once a week and whatnot, but we don't do screen time. They don't have tablets. And, you know, as much as video games were a huge part of my childhood, I'm just like, no, you know,
you should be raised better than we are.
They play them, you know, when their uncle comes over and brings their Switch, and they'll play them, whatever. But, so they don't really have any of the, look at all these Easter eggs. So for them as a kid who really isn't familiar with Mario other than Mario is a movie, they love it and they think it's so fun. They think it's so awesome.
Yeah.
You're totally right about how segmented everything was. It was like, we got to do this, and then we got to do this, and then we got to do this, and we got to do this. So,
I mean, it's like passing off every level, you know?
Yeah. And there's not a lot of depth to those moments. It's like, we're going to have a fight with Donkey Kong, and then we're going to build our cart, and then we're going to, although I will say, I mean, I can't help but smile as they're going on these carts, and Mario and Luigi, or Mario, like they have to jump into the abyss basically.
Yeah.
And he's really afraid, and they're all like gunning it, and everyone's doing it. And I'm like, if I were in this moment and I had never done this before and everyone else is gunning it, just like, would I have the faith to just do it?
Right.
You know what I mean? And he does. And then they land on Rainbow Road, which if you've ever played Mario Kart, That is such an iconic. Yes. That's just an iconic level.
Yes.
And it's very difficult. And I just love that they included it there. I thought that was a lot of fun. So yeah.
I think the other
I liked
thing
it. With this, we haven't even talked about, we keep switching back to Bowser. We're getting his storyline. We actually start the movie with him taking over kind of the penguins, and he's going for the superstar, and that's it. Like, why? What does the superstar do? Why is it important? Like, eventually we find out he wants to give to Peach. And if you've ever played Mario Party, like the whole goal of Mario Party is to like win the level or like get to the star, because whoever has the most stars at the end is the winner. And it's like simply the fact of owning it is the prize. And I love that. Like, there was no lore to why it's important or what it does. It's going to give him all these powers. He doesn't care. I want it to give to Peach.
I think they said if he gets that, he's unstoppable.
Oh, well, yeah, because in the games, it gives you invincibility,
right?
Which makes sense. But I mean, in the game, you use the star and the star is over, it's done. So it's just kind of interesting. But I liked it. I thought it was really fun. And, Bowser, Jack Black, perfect. I think I
didn't know it was him until after the fact. And then I was like, yes, that was, of course that was.
Of course it was, especially when he sings Peaches.
Especially. I love the story of when you went to the...
have I shared this on the podcast before?
I don't know if you have,
recall.
but you might as well go ahead now.
Okay, so, there's this place in town. It's called Organ Stop Pizza, and it's one of the largest pipe organs in like the Southwest or something, definitely in the state. Yeah. And what they do, it's really like an old person hub. It's a pizza parlor, and you get your pizza and you get to watch a person perform on the organ. And he'll do maybe like a 15-20 minute show, probably 20 minutes, probably a little longer than that, maybe 20, 30, I don't know. And then he takes a little 10-15 minute break, and then he pops back. Like, it like rotates up on this giant pedestal where he's like in the middle. Massive. I'll include a link in the show notes of someone. I'm sure there's a YouTube video, and he's up there and he plays, and you're surrounded. It's a huge pipe organ. It has all these bells and whistles that are literally surrounding you. So there's so much to look at. It's very interesting. And you can do requests. And so my kids did a request. I think it was someone's birthday. We typically go for birthdays, and someone wrote like Mario Brothers, or he's like Peaches, because the movie had just come out. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to put Peaches. I'll put Peaches from Mario movie, but like, no way is he, they have like their standards that are like the 80-20 rule. Like 80% of the people request these songs. Like he knows them and he memorizes them. And then like you get the 20% of just like the random one-offs, and they never end up playing those because they're just like whatever. So I'm like, I don't know, maybe he'll just play the Mario theme and that will count. So then he goes, and because it was a birthday request, they actually play it, and he starts playing Peaches. I'm sitting here, I'm like, oh my gosh. And immediately
this is how you have made it when your song is played at Organ Stop Pizza.
Well, even more is immediately all the kids in the audience, because it's also a family place too. All the kids in the audience start singing every single word for word of Peaches. And I am just shocked great. Because they are singing at the top of their lungs, especially when we get to the Peaches, 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 Peaches. Like, you hear all these kids singing it. And it just was so fun. I loved it. I thought it was so great. And so it goes to show that this movie really did have an impact. Like, children, I mean, like we talked about, it made $1.36 billion. Yeah. Children saw this movie, and this movie resonated with them, and they saw it probably again and again and again once it was available, to stream. Initially, Universal does a really good job of having their movies hit Netflix, which kind of is Universal at this point. So that was just a great moment. I love that. And the Peaches song is so funny. It's Jack Black. He's just, he's part of this band called Tenacious D, and they always put him in, in these movies, like he'll sing a song, and it was so great because he was singing it, and then he gets interrupted by his like magician guy. And it was great. I loved it. So, and then there's an end credit scene where he's singing another part of the song, and Jack Black was great. I thought, and I loved Bowser. He had this very simple storyline of like, I am giving this to Peach, and I'm going to marry her.
That's it.
It was just like perfect. It was just so fun. Like, it was nothing serious. And I saw people kind of complaining, like, well, not people. I saw one person complaining like, oh, this is after the Me Too movement, this is such cringy behavior. I can't believe that we would have a movie where he's doing this. And I'm like, like, that's the whole point of a villain is they do stuff that is cringy, that is not desirable by society. And you as the audience realize, oh, that's really bad. I'm not going to do that. Like, if I want to win a girl, if there's a girl I'm interested in, how about I not kidnap her and then just force her to marry me? Like, that's like, it's just it's so out there. It's like, really? That's your complaint, that he wants to marry Peach? Like, that's a plot in the games many times.
Yeah.
It's funny. Like, it's funny. It is what it is. So, yeah. Bowser, fantastic villain, fantastic casting, just great all around. I mean, he is threatening, as far as
he's massive. He's got fire. He's
powerful. He has all the Koopa behind him.
Yeah, he doesn't, and he's not like, dissected and made to be the non threat. Like, he is a threat.
He's not. Exactly. He's not, emasculated, if you will, and just made to be. At the very end, they give him, the blue mushroom, which shrinks you, which Mario made the mistake of eating earlier. She thought he was when he was beating Donkey Kong, and that was a funny moment. And they bring that back around and they give it to him, and he's just this little shrimpy guy at that point. It was funny. It was funny. Yeah. I loved all the different, just pieces of Mario. I wouldn't say accessories, but the items, if you will, that they use them very well. There's the fire flower that she uses to start the fire. And there's the superstar. There's the different mushrooms, the ice. Yeah. I really liked Peach's wedding dress. Mm-hmm. That was a nice look. And so let's talk about the music. So
I loved it.
Now there's different types of music. There's a score. Mm-hmm. There's the pop songs that they introduce. And then obviously there's the Peaches song, which we've already talked about. Right. So when you say you love it, we're referring to all of it?
I was referring to the more of the thematic side. So when you're the scores, because I could just tell that whoever, who was it that did the music on this?
So he's actually really interesting. It's not someone you would recognize because Koji Kondo is the famous composer of all the Mario and Zelda games. And so you think, oh, well, he can score a video game, he can score a movie, right? But they didn't go with him. And Koji Kondo really isn't like as involved, for a lot of stuff, but they got someone named Brian Tyler. He's an American composer, conductor, musician, arranger, and record producer. So he's known for doing all of the Fast and Furious movies, Rambo, the Expendables trilogy, Iron Man 3, the Crazy Rich Asians, Avengers, Age of Ultron. So there's, he did that with Danny Elfman. And then the Mario movie. So initially, it's like, I don't know who you are, but he's definitely accomplished. Yeah. And he did so well because you have these classic themes. Like, you could just use those and everything would be great. But what I liked is that he didn't overuse them. Like, when we see Peach's Castle, we get the Peach's Castle theme from Super Mario 64 or Nintendo 64, Mario 64. And it's just like a little beat of it, but it's not the whole thing where you're just hearing that over and over and over again. And there is, so he weaves these in where you just hear them and then you're like, ooh, I know that song. Ooh, I know that song. But it's kind of like Member Berries from South Park, if you will. Like, ooh, remember that. But he uses it tastefully. He uses it properly. Yes. Because I feel like if the whole movie was that, I would be bombarded. He just peppers these in. They're not too overwhelming where you're just constantly bombarded by the songs. And I really liked it. I thought it was good. I thought it was fantastic. Really, the one thing I didn't like was the pop songs. I felt they picked excellent songs. All of them were just like classic jams. They're really short. I mean, less than a minute. Like you get into it and it's like, oh, we're done.
Because I don't want to pay more.
But I just didn't love it because I was like, why do we feel the need to have these songs? I don't know. I felt like it totally, with the Mario music alone,
it could have held much more evergreen on there.
Yes. It just feels like anytime you're throwing something like this in there, you're kind of dating it.
Yeah. I feel like it. Well, especially later on at the very end when he gets the star power, like even he took the star power song and theme music and like just made it like perfectly tied to what you're supposed to be feeling.
Like cinematic music. Yeah.
Cinematic. Yeah. And I was just like, you did such a great job. Good job, Brian.
Go you.
Way to be.
Yeah. So it was good. It was really, really good. Now, Do you have any other last thoughts before we talk about the critics?
The critics' reactions. No, I think of all, my reaction to this was that it wasn't like a movie that I'd be like, yes, I want to watch that on repeat. You know, it's just more of a fun movie to have in the background and be like, yeah, you're nice. Like nothing. 3.5 stars, I think, for me. And I just there's nothing in this that was like, I don't know. I liked it. It was fun, and it was fun, family fun flick. A lot of good things. Like, good job.
Yeah, my kids, we do have an iPad that my husband uses for work. And the only time they really watch the iPad is when we go on a road trip. I'll load up a bunch of movies, and, after maybe an hour or two, after they've done all their other activities that I prepared for them, I'll let them watch a movie or two.
You're so crunchy. It's wonderful.
I know. And without fail, they want to watch the Mario movie every time. And I'm fine with it. I think it's great. It's a good movie.
Which is probably another reason why everybody went back multiple times to see it, because you had all these super fans for Nintendo that were like, I appreciated the fact that they did not ruin my nostalgia. They did not crap on the things that I loved as a kid. They just kind of
they made a really simple movie.
Yeah. And they accentuated it with different things and made it more kiddie for today. And so it's like, yeah, it's fun. All right, let's do that. So that's one of those reasons. Like you can't go back on other people's nostalgia and crap on it. And as if it shouldn't be like,
I feel like they knew their audience really well, because the people who grew up with these games in the, mid to late 80s, 90s, the Super Nintendo kids.
Yeah.
At this point, they are in their 30s, 40s, and they have kids of their own, most likely.
Yeah.
And so as a parent, you're like, Mario, I loved Mario growing up, but you might have your own kids. And so you're going to bring your kids there. And so it's a movie event that you can enjoy, hopefully, because of all your childhood growing up,
all the member berries,
these games. Yes. But then hopefully your kids, whether they play games or not, which Nintendo's hoping that at this point, obviously you introduce your kids to Nintendo. So of course they know who Mario is and they played the games, but then they're going to enjoy it as well. And I think it really did balance that really well.
I think so too.
At no point during this movie was like, get me out of here. This is the worst movie ever.
I never thought that.
It was a lot of fun. So I think we should weave into our other nerdy couch discussion, which was critics versus the fans. And I think the thing that embodied this the most was Grace Randolph's review. She has a YouTube channel called Beyond the Trailer. Very famous. She's been in the game a long time. She's in New York City. And, I'm sure you've seen one of her reviews before. They're pretty simple. And she just sits and talks. She's blonde. And
ironically, she started when we started. So she's been in the game. We've all been in the game a long time, but she's done a lot better as far as wide.
She has, and I don't think she's married and she doesn't have any kids.
Right.
So, and you know what? Neither do you, but you have me pulling you down.
Right. Exactly.
Because whenever we want to get together and do something, it's like, I always have the excuse of I can't So I'm the cause. Right. So blame me always. We didn't do very many podcasts last year. That was because of Morgan, not because of Chelsea. Right. So anyways, she does this review and she leads it off with, guys, this movie is a bomb. It's a dud. I am sorry. We went into this and I am surprised. It is such a terrible movie. No one is going to like this movie. It's not going to come anywhere near $1 billion. The embargo was just a few hours before the when it was released, yada, yada, yada. I went to this press screening and I thought it was so funny in her review. We'll include her link to her review. She's like, yes, we all go to press screenings, but on the screen, she had this image pop up of a press badge. I'm like, okay, we got it. You went to a press screening, whatever. But she went to a press screening.
Just so you know, there are no press badges in the press in the press things that we go to. There is no badge.
No, you walk up to a table, you give them your name, maybe your outlet, and they say, "Okay, you're good, go in."
Right.
And she's like, "Yeah, they gave us popcorn and treats, and then there were about 40 people in the theaters and none of us were laughing." And it was just, I think she was just trying to present hey, I was in the screening with a whole bunch of other critics and no one else thought it was funny. She did mention that this was basically as bad as the League of Super Pets and that she wanted to walk out of that movie. And I will agree with that. That is a terrible garbage movie. So I was like, okay, fine. You see that that's a bad movie, but I there's so many disconnections with why she thought this was a bad movie. And we've kind of talked about it, but, she says, like, I'm not a fan, which is fine. She says, you shouldn't have to do homework to go to a movie and enjoy it. And I think for most films, it should have a universal appeal, to a certain, whatever group you're trying to hit. And this was a family film. And so it's supposed to have this universal appeal. And I think Mario, just by being this iconic character, even if you were a gamer or not, you played the games or not, I think most people are familiar with the Mario mechanics. You jump, you hit the block, you get the mushroom, you do the star, boom, boom, you save the princess, you beat the bad guy, right? Like, it's pretty self-explanatory if that's all you know. And I feel like that is all that she knows of Mario. She clearly has really never played the games to a big extent, and that's fine. But she thought that, man, this was just fan pandering. This was only for fans. Like, if you were not a fan, you would not understand this at all. And I didn't see that. I'm not sure where she's getting this. She must have been a really stodgy theater, because it was so fun. But yeah, I think it really kind of went to show how out of touch she is. And she kind of became this meme unto herself online of she represents the mainstream critics now.
Yeah.
Like, if there's a movie that comes out and critics hate it, and it's obviously a good movie and audiences love it, you'll see YouTube videos that put her face on there to represent the mainstream critics, even though she's a YouTuber. She represents kind of the face, because most mainstream critics, you only read their work. None of them really have a face that you, unless, Siskel and Ebert, whatnot, but you, or, Roper, I guess, is the other one.
His
but
new friend.
New as it 30 years ago.
I know.
Okay, hey, that was an iconic moment. We all remember that.
We do.
So it's just funny. She really is the face because she is the face. Like, she has a YouTube channel, and like, that's part of her persona, that she does video reviews of these. So it was just really interesting that she's kind of morphed. Like, the critics nowadays really feel like they are in the pockets of, Hollywood.
Yeah. I mean,
like, I have to go to your movies. And so it's not like if I give bad reviews, I'm going to stop going to the list, but I feel like maybe more so now that might be happening a little bit, but
I think it is.
The critics are just kind of like, they need to touch grass, basically, is what it comes down to, is because they are so in this Hollywood bubble, because that is their world, that they see bad movies that are just terrible, and then they think they're so good, they're so artistic, they're so this and that, and then you look at the audience score, and the audience score totally pans it. And that's kind of the new meme now, is that if you want to know if a movie is good, you need to go to Rotten Tomatoes and look at the audience score, and obviously the critics score. If the critics score is it's a dud, and the audience score is that it's good, then it's probably a good movie, because the critics are out of touch.
You have the especially Rotten Tomatoes today. It's like, well, there was a button where you could do, like, you had the certified one. So it's like basically people who go in and actually like scan in their ticket that they already went to this.
The verified ratings.
Yeah, the verified rating, and then the non-verified ratings. And it's like, that's all sorts of ways in order to like kind of hide.
Okay. Yeah. There's an all audience button, which is everyone, whether you've verified it or not. And then there's a verified audience. Then they also have the all critics, and then they have the top critics, because there was a period of time where Rotten Tomatoes was really interested in having a lot more diversity in their critics. And so they allowed like a ton of people, a lot of women in, and this isn't a critique either way. We know this is possible, this because we were reached out to, and one of our team members is now a Rotten Tomatoes critic, Rachel, which is great. She reviews every single film, and she's awesome. But because of that, they let so many people in that now they're like, well, the critics are not loving it.
What these people
we can't control because we've opened it up to we've opened it too much. And so now they have the top critic rating, where it's like, you're working for the big, I'm clicking on this for Dune Part 2, you're working for Film Week, Cincinnati, Ohio newspaper, it's like all these like traditional Minneapolis Star, like you have to have these like top, platforms and outlets, if you will, to be the,
Well, I'm looking at, another good one is Ghostbusters Frozen Empire just came out. I have not seen it. And so you have the all critics score, and that one's kind of like some yes, some no. The top critics is all no. And then the all audience, it seems to be mostly yes. And then verified audience, you're looking at a little of this and little of that. Mostly yes. So it's just interesting how they've created their own little game based on, we can hide that for you.
we can make it a good,
especially for like, I'm looking at you, Disney. Like, I feel like anything that is negative and trying to hide the fact that these movies suck is probably going to be coming from Disney, because they have been sucking recently. And they can't have that. They can't be, you got to go buy our movies, even though we spend too much money on them.
For the Super Mario movie, if you're looking at all critics, and I'm just randomly scrolling, I'd say it was probably about 2/3 are positive, and then about 1/3 are not. But if you go to top critics, then it really is like 50-50, if not maybe like 60% negative, 40% positive. It's just interesting, like reading some of these negative reviews. Among the many errors of the Super Mario's movie, screenwriter Matthew Fogel plops him and his brother Luigi into a milquetoast Brooklyn family that doubts them and disrespects their whatever. This one from Dylan Roth. This is the laziest possible version of Mario movie, and for most viewers, young and old, that's totally acceptable. Like, okay, fine. The whole package is deranged mishmash of overstimulating elements. Yeah, but I don't say it's deranged. Frantic Easter egg hunt of a film that does the bare minimum to please its loyal fan base. Really, the majority of the critics were just really frustrated that it was a very simple movie.
Yeah.
And this movie doesn't not have a plot. It has a plot.
Oh, yeah.
They get stuck in the Mushroom Kingdom and they get separated. They need to find, and then we have a subplot where Bowser is on the move to capture Peach, and they all culminate at the very end, and there's a big battle sequence, whatever, and boop, it's nice. So yeah, it's just funny. It's just be aware when you're looking at movies that you kind of have to filter and sort. If you were previously one that just like, oh, Tomato Meter, like yes or no, like do a little digging, especially if there's like such a discrepancy, like 95% audience score versus 59%, like maybe read into those reviews. Oh, one other thing with Princess Peach that I wanted to talk about was, one thing that Grace was really against, like, the whole plot is that Bowser is trying to marry Peach, and then it's all about who can be Peach's girlfriend, and like, please, but who cares? Like, it was actually really funny and fun to see Mario kind of flirting with her and maybe interested in her, and then Donkey Kong comes out, I was like, this is flirting, that's flirting, and they make it a thing, because I'm trying to think of the last time in a movie that we had a character, like a love interest for a main character.
Yeah.
And I can't, in an animated film, I can't really think of anything. There was one that I thought of, but it was a side character that had a love interest. As far as Disney goes, Disney and Pixar.
Well, you had the Elemental. That one was a love story.
Yeah. So Elemental, most recent, came out the same year, but anything prior to that, as far as Pixar,
I will go along with you and say, yes, it is less, but I don't think it is like a null. I think it's more just like, they're definitely trying to steer away from that and like, let's do more like friendship relationships. Yeah.
I'm trying to think of a Walt Disney animated film. I'm going to pull this up. List of studios, list of films. Okay. I'm just going to do Disney. And when was the last time the main character of a Disney animated film had a love interest? And that was part of the thing. So we have Wish. We know, nope, that didn't happen. That was it. That's what everyone wanted. Everyone wanted them to be a love interest between her and Star, like the boy. Like there's a version where he was a boy. Strange World, kind of. Yeah. But that wasn't, that's Encanto. That's the one I was thinking of. Encanto has it, but it's the sisters. Subplot.
Yeah, the subplot.
Raya the Last Dragon, Frozen 2, I guess with
Anna
and Kristoff, but that was already a thing.
Right.
Ralph Breaks the Internet, Moana, Zootopia, Big Hero 6, Frozen, Wreck-It Ralph, Winnie the Pooh. Tangled is really the last time this was a thing. Like really, really a thing.
Yeah.
Other than, I guess, Frozen. So Frozen and Tangled. Other than that, we haven't had anything. And I miss a good love story.
Yeah.
So This wasn't, they didn't get together at the end and they didn't kiss and whatnot, but maybe in future movies, I'd totally be fine with that. And she's kind of into him and he's definitely into her. And it's
isn't that the story though? Like,
yes,
you saved me, Mario. Thank you. And it's like, how good for all those short kings out there that they know that they can still get a princess. There you go.
All right. So you already kind of gave your review. You said 3.5 stars.
Yeah.
Anything else you'd like to add to that?
No, I'm good.
I'm going to give it 4 stars. I have watched this movie, whether it's just listening to it while I'm driving on a road trip or actually sit and watched it. I probably sat and watched it myself 3 times since it came out and a variety of other times. Well, the initial time in theaters, and then I saw this, and then I maybe sat and watched it with my kids another point, but then maybe 7+ other times where I've just heard it going on in the background while I'm doing other stuff. And it's fun every single time. I don't really get bored of this movie. I think it does it really well. We totally skipped over Toad. Toad was a really fun character, and I really liked what they did with him. And he's just like spunky little guy who just wants to save the princess. And toads aren't that way. And so Princess Peach is like, a toad who's wanting to do this? Yeah, you're on. And it's just fun. I really liked it. I love all the Easter eggs. I love all the characters. There's almost too much happening at times, but a lot of those things are just kind of background Easter egg things. It's not like there's too many plots happening. It's just a simple plot and I like it. So 4 stars.
Yeah. I actually am very excited about what is coming forward from here forward. You had the tail end where you bring in the Yoshi.
Yes. They held back on certain elements because we're going to use those for future movies.
Yeah.
So I feel like
everybody loves Yoshi and all of the Yoshi types.
I love
the green,
Yoshi.
the blue, the red. Red was always my favorite because you always had, it's just like always the fun.
The blue's your favorite because the blue one flies, of course.
That's true. Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited to see what they do with that. Also, the fact that they're trying to add all of this to even in theme parks with Epic Universe, they're trying to throw in there. I am very excited. Like, it'll be fun to see what they do with these things.
Yeah. So the sequel is set April 3rd, 2026. So just 3 years, after the first one, which is a pretty good timeline for a sequel. If they're really on the ball, you'll get it 2 years later, but 3 years is pretty good. 5 years is kind of standard for a lot of stuff. I think that's what we ended up seeing for the Lego movie, Frozen, 5 years, but 3 years to see another one. I am down for it. It's going to be fun. Can't wait to see what happens. So let us know your thoughts. Go to rotoscopers.com/290. Leave your thoughts. Leave us a voicemail. We're going to do a fun voicemail only episode. So if you have any random questions, doesn't matter what it is, as long as it's animation, past, present, future, send us a voicemail, rotoscopers.com/voicemails, and we will do that fun episode for you when the time comes. As far as our next episode, we're going to be doing a nerdy couch discussion episode discussing these celebrities who just happen to just do all the voice acting roles. And we're going to be dissecting them and seeing, like, what is it about these people where they just keep getting hired in all of these movies, and it kind of was spurred by this. It was Seth Rogen is in a lot of movies. Jack Black, we're going to look into. Obviously, Chris Pratt is in a lot of, later this year, he's going to be in Garfield. And then obviously Awkwafina from, she's in quite a bit too. So we have this giant list. We're going to break them down and see,
contemporary versus the traditional and people who are like real. That's what they are as voice actors versus like film and voice.
Yep. So that's gonna be fun. I'm excited for that one. And until next time, we are the Rotoscopers. Yes. Want to do it again?
I'll end up editing it all together.
Okay,
anyway.
Great. Okay.
Okay, so I have been trying to figure out why in the world only one side of my speakers works for like the last week. I went in, I had to like totally go through and like figure out different wires because I have so many wires everywhere. Anyway, literally just now, I realized it's because the cord just now.
Breaking news.
Breaking news. I figured out why. I'm dumb. The cord was in only the left. Like I have a mixer and it has one that's like headphones and then I have a right and left like out port. And I had the cord that was supposed to go out of the headphones and into my big speakers, and said it was going into the left. And so that's why I only got the left of everything. I was like, dang it.
That would do it.
All right. Anyway, I went to school for recording engineering. Look at me.
Happens to the best of us. I would be shocked the number of times something like that happens on, like a professional.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's just, and they're all just like the smallest little things. Like, of course.
Well, and then something gets bumped or changed and you don't realize until way later. Right. And you're just like, oh, thanks. Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Right. Oh, do you hear my dog?
I do.
That's funny. She came in running and she was like, I am wanting some attention, and I wasn't giving it to her. And so she lays down and she's like, Meh. She makes this like grunt whenever
she knows how to mess up a recording podcast, eh?
So now I'm going to lay down here and just be at your feet.
Okay. I'll let you know that I'm around, okay? Don't forget about me.
Exactly.
Don't forget about me.